And it wasn't just the Stone Roses. In 1990, the Manchester shuffling, baggy beat gripped the nation's consciousness. It was like the North West had taken over. I blame bloody Coronation Street. Anyone within map reading distance in Manchester was pulling on Joe Blogg's flares and hijacking the charts. If the Roses were the city's band of the year, it was the walking pharmacies that were the Happy Mondays who made the most critically acclaimed album. God knows how.
It was like a wake-up call across the country that all these blokes in council estates who'd been completely ignored for ages and ages suddenly thought, that's me, and I'm on the telly.
It was all mad as fuck off our heads, you know what I mean? Here we are off our faces on your telly. Go fuck off, and what you going to do about it?
They were just utterly kamikaze. I mean, someone like Bez, that's brink of death. If you think of Shaun Ryder and Bez as sort of like Boswell and Dr. Johnson, you know, on this sort of like odyssey into the human soul, at the end of it, you know, Shaun Ryder's trying to smoke his own feet, and Bez is held together by surgical plates and pus. You know, fair play.
1990 was shaping up to be something of a tricky year if you happen to be a woman with your heart set on world domination. Speaking of which, a certain grocer's daughter from Grantham in Lincolnshire waved us all a tearful farewell.
I have always supported the Conservatives for 38 years, but I will never support them again.
No poll tax here! No poll tax here!
How could you introduce something like the poll tax and think you could get away with it? People realised, you know, she doesn't understand people in the country that she's running. She doesn't understand it.
In 1990, I was just delighted to have been a part of what the tabloids called the most evil thing ever to have happened to this country, which was house music.
Welcome back to 1990, the year that Rave went mainstream mental.
The culture of the rave was recognised as being probably Britain's most potent post-war youth movement. Suddenly British people were perceived not as being very boring and very po-faced, but as being arguably the most outgoing of all European young people.
It was absolutely a statement that there is community and people want community and they won't have it taken away from them. And the police were used as an army to act on that.
The government were fearful of raves, and our objective, to be quite frank with you, was to stop as many as we could happening. I was shocked to find the disorientation amongst young people. They were wide-eyed, almost wide-mouthed, arms in the air, and you feared for their own personal and moral safety.
They're on the footpaths, they're in people's drives. One of the neighbours has also seen sex taking place in the garden, which isn't very nice, especially if you have children.
We can see the damage which is done by drugs to people, whether it's so-called soft drugs like ecstasy or marijuana.
I don't know what it would be like if ecstasy hadn't happened. I think it would have been. I think the whole country would be massively different.
Doors were opened by that drug, as simple as that, you know. People talk about youth cults and revolution in music and fashion. That was an actual mass working class revolution. There's no doubt about that. More so than punk.
It is probably the most exciting turn of events in the whole of the 20th century, I would think, in music. The social changes and the cultural movement 10 years on has been such that it's become very acceptable. And I often wonder why we bothered. Super lighting, lovely people, and I wish them well for the future.
Naturally enough, as rave became more commercially successful, it somehow became less hip, but still the same things were there. Thousands of strangers in the middle of a field, standing, disorientated, wondering why they're there, a bit like one man and his dog.
Hello, I'm Adamski and this is Dis, the dog.
Adamski was kind of at the forefront of a little subculture that existed as a parallel universe to the DJs of one man and their keyboard. It was so sort of cheapskate the way it was done. He had like a number plate made up which said Adamski, and that comprised his live performance.
England's answer to child prodigy Amadeus was Adam Tinley, a young man who first hit the big time in 1979 at the age of 10.
I had a strong feeling that I was just meant to make music, so I made this little record with my little brother on a tape recorder.
Babysitters, 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 me hates babysitters.
I think it was like number 3 in the alternative charts. I used to speak to John Peel, which was quite exciting for a little boy. I was quite an annoying kid, and having a record out and being on telly stopped everyone from beating me up, I think.
Adam soon grew up and left such childish pleasures behind him before founding squat punk outfit Discord That Called, along with fellow frontman Johnny Slut.
We used to drink quite a lot. Our favourite place to play was this party in the Rio Cinema in Dalston called The Mix. I always used to take my little dog, Dis, who's sadly not with us anymore. And we used to change costumes in Wendy houses, and my dog used to poo everywhere. That was kind of where I was coming from.
Adam retreated to do the dusting above this kebab house in Camden Town, while fellow fast food fan Seal Henry Samuel served burgers just up the road.
Believe it or not, I enjoyed a 2-week period at McDonald's in Kentish Town. And that was an experience.
And it wasn't long before the two met and joined forces in a terrible experiment.
He said that I should meet him in a studio in Hammersmith the next day, and he played me this backing track.
And he said, well, I've got these lyrics called The Killer. And I was like, that's a coincidence, because I've got this song, this music called Killer, and it just so happened to fit together.
So you want to be free, live your life.
I was unemployed. I was on the Enterprise Allowance Scheme. I was actually number 1 on top of the pops, and I was getting my rent paid. And hopefully I can say that on television without some bit of vindictive little man coming round and asking me for his £45 back. Went from drinking special brew in a bedsit to cocaine, champagne, computer punk in about 3 weeks.
Communications between Adamski and myself kind of broke down because there was lots of politics involved in the record company. They were going to promote the record as Adamski, which presented a bit of a problem considering that I not only co-wrote the song, but I was also singing on it.
I think what was confusing about Killer was that no one knew quite who Adamski was. I think a lot of people thought that Adamski was Seal or that Seal was Adamski. It was very, very confusing. And if you'd taken a lot of E that summer, I don't think you would have had a clue about that record.
He was really good. He made some great pop records, and he had a really good vision, didn't he? He was like a little space pixie, really. One he know, he lost it. And he did really lose it big style, didn't he?
He was sweet, like, but his brain was mashed, you know. You couldn't get a conversation out of him, and I felt a bit sorry for him, really.
Seal taught me how to fry an egg properly. I'm always being indebted to him for that. I didn't know you were supposed to put the saucepan lid over the top, so I'd always get it a bit burnt on the bottom and runny on top. And he was really, really good at that sort of thing.
Adamski soldiered on solo, but ultimately failed to scale the dizzy heights he reached with Killer.
Please don't
just wouldn't stick to a formula, and I like to take risks. I probably really pissed off the record company. I made a big pig's ear of everything.
He should have had hit after hit after hit. He didn't. I mean, he released some very, very obscure, unrhythmic records. And really, I mean, he passed the ball to Seal. So Seal came out of it very, very strongly.
So strongly, in fact, that he went forth and multiplied.
We get a little crazy.
Adamski, meanwhile, tiring of Britain's dodgy kebabs and bitter, twisted social security officials, has relocated to Bologna, where he raises his daughter, records new material, and looks forward to a future playing the dad.
The children are the children. They're the children.